It was a bright Saturday morning in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of Chicago. The air smelled of fresh coffee and cut grass. People were out early, walking around from one yard sale to another, searching for something interesting, something old, something forgotten. Among them was Ethan Miller, a 29-year-old writer who loved old things. He believed that every object had a story, you just had to find it. Ethan wasn't rich or famous, but he had a curious mind and a kind heart. That morning, he was hoping to find inspiration for his next story. As he walked past tables full of lamps, books, and faded paintings, something caught his eye: an old wooden desk, sitting a little apart from the rest. It was scratched, its legs uneven, and one drawer looked slightly crooked. Still, there was something about it, something that felt different. An elderly woman stood nearby, arranging some plates. Her hair was silver, tied neatly in a bun. Ethan smiled politely. "Good morning, ma'am," he said. "How much for the desk?" The old woman looked up. Her blue eyes held a strange mix of sadness and fear. "Oh, that old thing," she said slowly. "You can have it for $30. Just, be careful with it." Ethan chuckled softly. "Be careful? It's just a desk, right?" The woman's lips pressed into a thin line. "Some things," she said, "carry memories better left alone." Ethan paused. Her words made him curious, but he didn't want to pry. He paid for the desk, loaded it into his small truck, and drove home. But her voice, soft, shaky, and filled with warning, stayed in his mind. That night, Ethan placed the desk in his study. He brushed the dust off its surface and opened the drawers. They creaked loudly, like they hadn't been touched in years. Inside were only a few old paper clips and a broken pencil. He was about to give up when he noticed something strange: a small gap at the back of the bottom drawer. It looked like a thin line, barely visible, but it was there. He leaned closer. "What are you hiding?" he whispered to himself. Ethan pulled the drawer all the way out and ran his hand along the inside. His fingers touched a small metal edge. It felt like a latch. With a bit of pressure, he heard a faint click, and suddenly, a hidden compartment popped open. His heart started to race. Inside the compartment was a small bundle wrapped in yellowed cloth. The fabric smelled of dust and time. Carefully, he unfolded it and found a stack of old letters, tied together with a faded blue ribbon. Each envelope was written in neat cursive handwriting. The paper had turned soft and fragile. The first one was dated June 3, 1974, more than 50 years ago. Ethan sat down slowly, his excitement growing. He opened the first letter and began to read. "My dearest Michael, I waited for you by the lighthouse again today. The sea was calm, the sky was pink, but you never came. Maybe the army kept you busy, or maybe you forgot me already. Still, I'll wait like I always do. Love. Lily." Ethan read it twice. The words were simple but full of emotion. He looked at the other letters. There were more than 10, all written by the same woman. Each one ended with the same name, Lily. But there was something strange: every letter had been opened, except the last one. Its seal was still unbroken. Ethan hesitated, then gently tore it open. The letter was short and it sent chills down his spine. "If anyone finds this, tell Michael I never stopped loving him." That was it. No date. No address. Just those haunting words. Ethan leaned back in his chair, staring at the letters. Who was Lily? Who was Michael? Why were these letters hidden inside an old desk? He looked again at the desk. Suddenly, it didn't feel like a simple piece of furniture. It felt like a piece of someone's heart, someone who had loved deeply and maybe lost everything. He searched the desk again and found something else, a small, old-fashioned key taped under the top panel. It looked handmade, maybe for a diary or another lock. Ethan's mind buzzed with questions. Could this key belong to Lily? Was there something else hidden somewhere? Maybe this desk once belonged to her. He turned on his laptop and typed Lily Michael 1974 missing Chicago into the search bar. At first, nothing appeared. But after a few tries, one article caught his eye. It was from a local newspaper, dated July 2, 1974. The headline read: "Young woman disappears after fiancé leaves for military duty." Ethan clicked it. The article said that Lily Thompson, aged 24, vanished from her home in Harbor Bay, a small town near the coast. She was last seen walking toward the lighthouse, the same one she mentioned in her letter. Neighbors said she had been waiting for her fiancé, Michael Reed, who was serving in the army. But he never came back in time. And then one day, Lily was gone. Ethan's eyes widened. He looked at the letters again. They weren't just old words, they were a voice from the past, a story frozen in time. He whispered, "Lily Thompson, what happened to you?" Outside, thunder rumbled softly, as if the sky had heard his question. Ethan didn't know it yet, but by buying that old desk, he had just opened the first page of a love story and a mystery that had been waiting 50 years to be told. As the night grew darker, he placed the letters back inside the hidden compartment and sat quietly, staring at the desk. The words from the last letter echoed in his mind. "Tell Michael I never stopped loving him." And Ethan made a silent promise. He would find the truth and finish the story that time had forgotten. The next morning, Ethan Miller couldn't stop thinking about the letters. He had barely slept. The face of Lily Thompson, a woman he had never met, kept flashing in his mind. Her soft words, her pain, her love for Michael Reed, everything felt real, almost alive. He sat at his desk, staring at the stack of letters again. The smell of old paper filled the air. Sunlight fell gently across the desk, touching the ink marks where Lily's pen had once moved. Ethan whispered, "Lily, what really happened to you?" Determined to find answers, he opened his laptop again. This time, he searched more carefully, reading every piece of old news he could find about Lily Thompson. Most reports were short. They all said the same thing: Lily disappeared from Harbor Bay in 1974. She was last seen walking near the lighthouse. Her fiancé, Michael Reed, was away on military duty. He returned months later, heartbroken and confused. No one ever found Lily. No one knew what happened after that. Ethan felt a strange pull, like fate was asking him to uncover the truth. He wasn't sure why he cared so much. Maybe because he was a writer. Maybe because it felt unfair that someone's love story ended in silence. He decided to visit Harbor Bay, the small coastal town where Lily lived. It was 3 hours away from Chicago. He packed the letters, the small key, and a notebook. Then, he got into his old blue car and drove toward the coast. When Ethan arrived, the air felt different, salty, cool, and heavy with the sound of crashing waves. The town looked quiet, frozen in time. Small shops lined the streets. Wooden houses leaned slightly with age. He stopped at a small diner named Sandy's Place. The signboard was faded, and an old jukebox played soft 80s music inside. Ethan took a seat near the window and ordered coffee. A young woman in her mid-20s walked over to his table. She had brown hair tied in a loose ponytail and bright green eyes full of curiosity. Her name tag read Emily. Passing through, she asked with a friendly smile. Ethan nodded. "Yeah. Actually, I'm here looking into an old story. Do you know anything about a woman named Lily Thompson? She went missing here a long time ago." Emily's smile faded a little. "Lily Thompson," she repeated softly. "That name sounds familiar. My grandma used to mention her. Said she was beautiful and kind, disappeared before she could get married." Ethan leaned forward. "Do you know where Lily used to live?" Emily thought for a moment. "Not exactly. But my grandma might know. She grew up here. She lives at Harborview Nursing Home, just a few blocks away. Ethan's heart lifted. Would you mind asking her? Or maybe I could meet her myself. Emily nodded. Sure. She loves visitors. Why don't you come by tomorrow morning? I'll introduce you. Ethan smiled gratefully. Thank you, Emily. I really appreciate it. As she walked away, Ethan glanced out the window. In the distance, he could see the lighthouse, tall and lonely against the sky. That was where Lily had been last seen. Later that evening, Ethan decided to walk along the beach. The wind was cold, but he didn't mind. The sound of the waves reminded him of the letters of Lily waiting by the sea for Michael. He pulled one letter from his bag and read it under the dim light of the pier. Michael, I watched the sunset today and wondered if you're seeing the same sky. The sea feels empty without you. I miss your voice, your smile, everything. Ethan's eyes softened. He could almost imagine Lily sitting on the same beach, writing these words. But then something strange happened. A small, worn-out photograph slipped out from between the letters. Ethan picked it up carefully. It showed a young woman Lily standing beside the lighthouse, smiling shyly. The photo was slightly torn, but behind her, a faint figure of a man was visible. It was blurry, almost ghost-like. Ethan frowned. Who took this picture? He whispered. The next morning, Ethan drove to the Harborview Nursing Home. Emily was waiting for him in the lobby with a warm smile. You came, she said. Grandma's been excited to meet you. She loves talking about the old days. They walked into a cozy room filled with the scent of flowers and old books. An elderly woman with silver hair sat by the window, looking out at the sea. Her name was Margaret Collins, Emily's grandmother. When she saw the photo in Ethan's hand, her eyes widened. Her wrinkled fingers trembled slightly as she took it. Where did you find this? She whispered. In an old desk, Ethan replied softly. It belonged to Lily Thompson, didn't it? Tears welled up in Margaret's eyes. Yes. Lily was my best friend. We grew up together. She was engaged to Michael Reed, a good man. They loved each other so much. Ethan leaned closer. What happened to her, Margaret? The old woman sighed deeply. The night before she disappeared, she told me she was going to meet Michael at the lighthouse. She had something important to tell him. But she never came back. Did Michael ever meet her? Margaret shook her head. No. He swore he never got her letter. The next day, she was gone. Everyone searched for her for weeks. But it was like she vanished into the sea. Ethan felt chills crawl down his spine. The letters in his bag, they were probably the ones Lily had written before she disappeared. Maybe those letters never reached Michael because someone hid them. Margaret looked at the desk in the photo and said softly, that desk was hers. Her father built it for her when she turned 18. Ethan froze. The same desk. The one he bought at the yard sale. He looked at Emily and then back at Margaret. So that means, the desk I bought was Lily's. Margaret nodded slowly. It must be. That desk held all her secrets. Ethan sat quietly for a moment, his mind racing. He had come to this town as a curious stranger, but now, he felt part of something much deeper. Lily's story wasn't over. As he stood to leave, Margaret touched his hand. If you find out the truth, please tell me, she whispered. Lily deserves peace. Ethan nodded. I promise. Outside, the wind blew harder. The lighthouse stood tall in the distance, silent, waiting. And Ethan knew, he was getting closer to the truth. After leaving Margaret Collins' room, Ethan felt a strange mix of excitement and unease. He held the letters close to his chest as he walked down the quiet streets of Harbor Bay. The salty breeze from the sea brushed against his face, carrying with it the whispers of a story that had waited for decades to be told. Emily walked beside him, her eyes bright with curiosity. "You really want to know what happened to Lily," she said softly. "I can see it in your eyes. It's like you're meant to find the truth." Ethan nodded. "I can't stop thinking about her, or Michael. It's like the letters are calling me." They walked in silence for a while, passing small shops and weathered houses. Finally, Ethan stopped near a quaint antique store with a faded sign, "Harbor Bay Treasures." He felt drawn to it. Inside, the store smelled of old wood and varnish. Dust particles floated in the sunlight that spilled through the windows. As Ethan ran his fingers along the shelves, he noticed an old journal tucked between leather-bound books. The cover was faded, but his heart skipped a beat when he saw the initials LT engraved on the corner. This could be Lily's journal," Ethan whispered. Emily leaned closer. "It matches the handwriting in the letters." Ethan opened the journal carefully. The pages were yellowed and brittle. Each entry spoke of Lily's hopes, dreams, and fears. There were sketches of the lighthouse, doodles of the sea, and even mentions of Michael Reed. But one page, near the back, caught Ethan's attention. "I don't know if Michael will ever know the truth. If someone finds this journal, please, help me. The secret is in the desk. And if you find the key, you will find the letters that were never delivered. They hold my heart, my love, and the truth about that night." Ethan felt his pulse quicken. The small key he had found in the desk all those nights ago, it wasn't just a key. It was a guide. A path to uncover the mystery that had remained hidden for decades. He turned to Emily. "We have to go back to the desk. There's more hidden there. I can feel it." Emily nodded. "Then let's do it. I've waited long enough to know what happened to Lily." Back at Ethan's apartment, he placed the desk under a soft light. He ran his fingers along every corner, every crack. Then, he remembered the small carved mark he had seen before, L+M= forever, etched under the drawer. He examined the hidden compartment again. Carefully, he inserted the small key into a lock he hadn't noticed before, hidden behind a false panel. It clicked softly, and another tiny drawer slid open. Inside, Ethan found a single envelope, yellowed with age. It was sealed and addressed simply. "To the one who finds this." His hands trembled as he held it. Emily leaned in, whispering, "This must be it. This is what Lily wanted to be found." Ethan opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a letter written in Lily's familiar handwriting. "If you are reading this, you have found the truth that was hidden for too long. My cousin, Robert, did not want Michael and me together. He kept the letters from reaching Michael and made sure the world thought I ran away. If you are reading this, it means someone finally cares. Please, let the truth be known." Ethan's eyes widened. So, Lily hadn't disappeared by choice. Someone had stopped her from being with Michael. The decades-old mystery wasn't just about lost love, it was about a hidden betrayal. Emily gasped. "So that's why everyone thought she ran away." Ethan nodded slowly, his mind racing. "And the desk, the letters, the key, all of this was a message waiting to be found. Lily wanted someone to tell her story. She wanted justice, and love remembered." They sat in silence for a few moments, letting the weight of the discovery sink in. Outside, the lighthouse stood tall in the distance, quiet and mysterious, as if guarding the secret of that fateful night. Suddenly, Ethan remembered Mrs. Parker, the old woman who sold him the desk. Why had she seemed so afraid when he asked about it? He had a feeling that she knew more than she let on. The next day, he drove to Mrs. Parker's small cottage. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. He knocked on the door. The woman opened it slowly, her eyes widening when she saw him. You found it," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I didn't think anyone would." Ethan held up the letter. "I found everything. The letters, the journal. Lily's story. Why did you hide it all? Mrs. Parker sighed deeply. I worked for Michael's family after Lily disappeared. I couldn't tell anyone the truth, not then. Robert, he was dangerous. I was afraid he might hurt anyone who knew. But now, you've found it, and maybe it's time the story comes out. Ethan nodded, feeling the responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. He understood now, this was more than a story. It was a love frozen in time, waiting to be remembered. As he left the cottage, Emily by his side, Ethan looked toward the lighthouse once more. The wind blew fiercely, as if carrying Lily's voice across the waves. She wanted this story told, Ethan said softly. And now, we're going to make sure everyone knows the truth. Emily smiled. Her love, it wasn't lost. It was waiting for someone like you to find it. Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. He knew the journey wasn't over yet. There were still answers to find, still truths to uncover. But for the first time, he felt that Lily and Michael's love, though interrupted by fate and betrayal, might finally rest in peace. The lighthouse loomed in the distance, silent and tall, holding secrets of the past. And Ethan knew that by following Lily's words, he had become part of a story bigger than himself, a story of love, loss, and finally, revelation. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. The letters, the journal, and the story of Lily and Michael were all in his room, yet the mystery still felt unfinished. Something told him that the next step would bring him closer to the truth and closer to the heartache Lily had endured. He read the last letter again. If you are reading this, you have found the truth that was hidden for too long. My cousin, Robert, did not want Michael and me together. He kept the letters from reaching Michael and made sure the world thought I ran away. If you are reading this, it means someone finally cares. Please, let the truth be known. Ethan's hands trembled. He had uncovered the deception, but he didn't yet know how deep it went. Who else knew? Who had protected Robert? And could the final pieces of Lily's story still be found? The next morning, Ethan and Emily returned to the Harbor Bay Lighthouse. The air was cool and salty, and the waves crashed against the rocks below. Ethan felt a strange pull toward the lighthouse, as if it was calling him, holding the secrets of Lily's final moments. Do you think we'll find anything here? Emily asked softly. Ethan looked up at the tall, weathered structure. I don't know, he admitted. But I think this is where everything started, and maybe where it ended. They entered the lighthouse carefully. The wooden stairs creaked beneath their feet, and the light above flickered faintly. The place felt frozen in time, dust-covered windows, old furniture, and broken railings. Then, near the top, Ethan noticed a loose stone in the floor. He knelt down and lifted it. Beneath it was a small, rusted tin box. His heart raced as he opened it. Inside were a few old items, a silver locket, a handkerchief, and a small bundle of bones wrapped in cloth. But what caught his attention most was a folded note. The handwriting was unmistakably Lily's. If anyone finds this, know that I loved Michael with all my heart. My cousin Robert betrayed us. He hid the letters, made me disappear, and left me alone. Michael, I never stopped loving you. Whoever finds this, tell the world, and let our love live beyond my life. Ethan's stomach turned. The truth was finally here, chilling, heartbreaking, and real. Lily had not run away. She had been silenced. The letters in the desk, hidden for decades, had been her voice, waiting to be heard. Emily gasped, clutching the locket. I can't believe this, all these years, no one knew. Ethan nodded. And now they will. We have to tell the police. We have to make sure Robert's betrayal doesn't stay hidden anymore. The next day, Ethan and Emily brought the evidence to the local police. It took hours of questioning, but the officers confirmed that the remains matched Lily Thompson, and the story in the letters aligned with the events of 1974. Old Town records revealed that Robert Thompson, Lily's cousin, had manipulated the disappearance. He had hidden her letters, made Michael believe she left on her own, and moved items like the desk to cover his crime. He had since passed away, leaving only the secret behind. Ethan felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Justice, in the traditional sense, could never be served. But the truth, Lily's love, her heartbreak, her story would finally live on. That evening, Ethan returned to the lighthouse alone. He placed the silver locket on the stone where the letters had been hidden and looked out at the vast, endless sea. The sun was setting, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. He whispered softly, as if Lily could hear him. "Your story is finally known. Your love will never be forgotten." A gentle breeze blew past, and for a moment, Ethan could almost imagine a figure standing there, Lily, smiling softly, looking at the sea, finally at peace. When he returned to the town, Emily was waiting. She had tears in her eyes, but her smile was gentle. "You did it, Ethan. You found her. You told her story." Ethan looked at her and nodded. "It feels like we didn't just uncover a mystery, we honored a love that time tried to hide. Lily and Michael's love, it wasn't lost. It was waiting for someone to find it." Emily reached out and held his hand. "And maybe, in some way, we're part of their story now too." Ethan smiled softly. "Maybe love doesn't end when it's interrupted. Maybe it waits, for someone brave enough to find it." The lighthouse stood tall behind them, silent and proud, guarding its secret no longer. The town of Harbor Bay would remember Lily and Michael, a love interrupted by betrayal but immortal through the courage of one curious writer and a kind-hearted young woman who refused to let it be forgotten. Outside, the waves crashed against the shore, whispering a timeless truth: some loves never die. They simply wait, to be found. Weeks passed after Ethan and Emily uncovered the truth about Lily Thompson. The story had spread through the town and even reached the newspapers. People were amazed. A love story lost for decades had finally been revealed, along with the betrayal that had kept it hidden. But for Ethan, the story wasn't just headlines or mystery solved. It had changed him. He often thought of Lily and Michael, their love frozen in time, waiting for someone to bring it back to life. One bright morning, Ethan and Emily returned to Harbor Bay, this time not to search for clues, but to witness something meaningful: a small memorial at the lighthouse. The townspeople had gathered quietly, placing flowers near the base of the lighthouse. Some held candles, others simply stared at the waves, thinking of a woman who had waited for love that never came. Ethan held the old letters in his hands, now carefully preserved in a folder. He looked at Emily, who smiled softly. "It's beautiful," she said. "It feels like they're finally together." Ethan nodded. All these years, their love was hidden, but it never died. It waited for someone like us to find it. A gentle wind blew, carrying the scent of the sea. The lighthouse glowed faintly as the sun set behind it, painting the sky in orange and pink. Ethan imagined Lily standing there, looking at the horizon, and Michael finally beside her. He whispered softly, "Lily. Michael, your story is told. You're free now." Emily touched his arm gently. "You know, it's strange. Reading their story, seeing their love, it feels like they brought us together too." Ethan looked at her, a quiet smile on his lips. "Maybe they did. Maybe love never really ends. It just finds a way." The memorial was simple but heartfelt. A plaque had been placed at the base of the lighthouse, engraved with the words, "In memory of Lily Thompson and Michael Reed, a love that waited beyond time." Ethan and Emily placed a small bouquet of white flowers at the base. As they stepped back, the waves crashed gently against the rocks. Everything felt peaceful. Everything felt right. For the first time in decades, the town seemed to breathe a little easier. The story that had been silenced by fear and betrayal was finally heard. and more than that, the love that had been interrupted had been remembered. That evening, Ethan returned to the old desk he had bought. He carefully placed Lily's letters and journal back inside the hidden compartment, locking it with the small key. The desk, once a secret keeper, now felt like a guardian of love. He ran his fingers over the carved letters on the bottom. L plus M equals forever. The meaning had grown over time. It was no longer just initials in a hidden desk. It was a testament: true love can survive even the cruelest circumstances. Emily stood beside him, watching the sunset from his window. "You think they'd be proud of us?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled. "Yes. They'd be proud that their story lives on. That their love finally matters to someone." They sat together in silence for a while, letting the warmth of the fading sunlight fill the room. Outside, the lighthouse glimmered in the distance, standing as a symbol of enduring love and hope. Weeks later, Ethan published a book about Lily and Michael. He told their story with care, honoring the letters, the journal, and the mystery of their lives. People from all over the country wrote to him, thanking him for sharing such a powerful story of love, loss, and courage. Ethan often thought back to the day he bought that old desk at a yard sale. He smiled softly. What seemed like an ordinary object had changed his life and countless lives in Harbor Bay. Emily continued to visit Harbor Bay, helping with local history projects and sharing stories of the town's past. She and Ethan often walked along the beach together, talking about life, love, and the mysteries they hoped to uncover next. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, Ethan said quietly, "You know, Lily and Michael's story isn't just theirs anymore. It's ours too, the story of finding love, holding onto it, and never letting it fade." Emily smiled, squeezing his hand. "Maybe some loves are so strong, they wait for the right people to tell them." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. Some loves never die. They just wait, to be found." The lighthouse stood tall in the distance, silent yet alive. Its beams cut across the twilight sky, casting a glow over the sea. It had seen the love, the pain, and finally, the peace. And for Ethan, Emily, and everyone who had discovered the story, it was clear: some stories are worth finding. Some loves are worth remembering. And some truths, no matter how long they are hidden, are meant to shine. As the waves whispered their eternal song, Ethan and Emily walked hand in hand along the shore. The past had been revealed. The love had been honored. And the future was full of hope.